You like taking pictures of your friends and family? One woman took photos of her daughter, but what she saw after the photos were developed was terrifying. So her daughter always dreamt of being a ballerina, until one tragic day when she fell ill. The doctor said that she didn't have long. She quickly lost a lot of energy and soon could barely leave her bed. But one day when her mother came into her room, she was dancing again. Her mother was so happy. She grabbed her film camera and began taking photos, and soon after something horrifying happened. Her daughter's eyes rolled back and she fell on the floor. She was quickly taken to the hospital, where doctors said that she succumbed to her illness because the dancing was too much for her heart to handle. However, when her mother developed the photos that she took earlier just to remember her daughter by, she could not believe what she saw. In every picture, she saw a dark shadow standing behind her daughter, clutching her head and pulling her back and forth. Something in her daughter's room was forcing her to dance. What happened to Saki? Saki was a girl from Japan who was born with an eye deformity, causing her to have one eye that's much larger than the other. Because of this, she was constantly bullied and often kept her face covered behind her long hair. But eventually, Saki couldn't take the bullying anymore, so she went to the top of an abandoned building with a large rope. Allegedly, as she fell down, the rope yanked on her head, which means even though her body was discovered by authorities, her head was never found. After this, Saki's mother vowed to get revenge for her, beginning with a message she sent to everyone in Saki's school, saying anyone who didn't share her daughter's story was guilty for her death and deserved to be punished. And weirdly, within a few days, multiple students from Saki's school passed away mysteriously, found with their heads torn off of their bodies exactly like Saki. So police arrested Saki's mother, thinking she must be responsible, until another student from Saki's school finally told the truth. In the middle of the night, she woke up to a strange sound. When she looked up, she saw a girl staring at her from her window with one large eye. Realizing this was Saki, the girl immediately sent her story to someone else, and that's how she found out the only way to free yourself from Saki's curse is to pass it on. This man's wife left him, but not for the reasons he thought. Once there was a couple who just got married in Paris. They were very happy together, but the wife had one secret she didn't tell her husband yet. She had a birthmark on her face. She'd been wearing makeup to cover it, but she thought once she showed her husband, she would know whether he truly loved her. So after they got married, she took off her makeup and showed him. He was surprised, but he wasn't going to let that change anything. However, the next morning, his wife was gone. Her husband thought that she must have felt upset due to how surprised he looked when he saw her birthmark, or maybe she had second thoughts. After months of getting no reply, he finally gave up on trying to look for her. He was heartbroken, but after a few years, he got a new job in a different city. He wanted a fresh start in life, but things didn't go as planned. He came across a strange-looking circus called the House of Oddities. This made him very curious, so he went in, but what he saw inside would shock him. Among the other circus acts, he saw a twisted woman rocking back and forth, looking terrified. He screamed as he recognized the birthmark on her face. This is why you should never answer a call from your own number. Tim was woken up by his phone constantly ringing, but he ignored it and went back to sleep. That day he went to work, pulled out his phone, and saw that he had a missed call from his own number. He thought this must be a coincidence. He went to hang out with his friend and another call came. This time he picked up and heard his own voice repeating whatever he'd say back to him, until he was about to hang up. The voice said, "You're going downhill." He felt very uneasy but tried to let it go. The next morning at work, his number called again, but this time he felt terrified. So he made up an excuse and drove home as fast as he could. He knew deep inside some kind of a confrontation was coming. As soon as he got home, he saw his car pull into the driveway, and he saw himself get out of the car with a terrifying smile on his face. His doppelganger had stalked him and found him. Tim barricaded himself in his bedroom, but his doppelganger was banging on the door. He knew he was almost out of time. That's when he had one last idea. He pulled out his phone and called himself, and he heard his own voice reply, "How are you calling me from this number? Who are you?"
This is the scary story about friends. There was a man named Eric who was walking his dog on a trail in the woods one day when he suddenly saw something terrifying. A mutilated human body was lying against the stump of a tree with a man sitting next to it with his arm around it. Eric's dog instantly ran at him, but the man pulled out a knife and stabbed it to death. Eric stood there in fear as he watched his dog die. The man then jumped at Eric, driving the knife into his neck. The man then slowly pushed the knife deeper into Eric's neck and said, "Now I have more friends."
My friend won't let anyone in her house after 9:30, and I just found out why. They're the happiest couple that I've ever met. Like, if you didn't believe in love, this couple would make you believe in it. But one evening, it all came crashing down. I arrived at JC's house at 5 p.m. sharp. She is obsessed with time, always wondering why someone's a minute late or a minute early, as if she's a detective and you're in her interrogation room. But before I get into what happened, let me tell you a little bit about JC. She's got pitch black hair, a nose ring, wears dark clothing. She's the type of girl that has pumpkins sitting out in the beginning of September. And she's super welcoming. Actually, the rug on her front door reads, "Leave now." So tonight I was going by her house because me and her had planned a movie night. But we had to start the movie night at 5 because she never lets anyone in her house after 9:30. As soon as I walked into her house, I immediately smelled cinnamon cookies. I was hoping they were for me, well, for us. But JC just brought in a big bowl of popcorn and some drinks, which was fine. I certainly wasn't going to complain and lose her trust for the next 2 decades. Then the movie ended. We thought Halloween 2 was okay. While JC went upstairs to find another movie, I decided to give myself a tour of the house. And here's when things started to go wrong. I was just glad she was willing to watch another movie and that she was letting her friends back into her life. She hadn't really been social since her and Tyler broke up. No one knows what happened between them, just that they were together one day and then the next day they weren't. After the breakup, no one heard from Tyler again. Then we started the second movie, Saw 4. She fell asleep during the movie, and the next time I checked my phone, it was 9:15. I thought, I better get going soon, even though she probably wasn't gonna wake up in the next 15 minutes. I headed over to the kitchen to grab a glass of water before leaving, and then I saw those cinnamon cookies on the counter, and I was like, she's not gonna miss one, right? After finishing the cookie, I turned on the water on the sink to wash my hands, but I was trying to be like really quiet because I didn't want to wake her up. The water didn't wake her up, but my scream did. My friend won't let anyone in her house after 9:30, part 2. If you missed part 1, go back and watch that. So the last thing I told you is JC awoke to my scream. I saw the face of a man outside of the kitchen window. She ran to the kitchen and I told her to call the cops. What did he look like? She asked me, but I didn't know. He was definitely a man. I think he was white. She burst out in laughter and said, that's enough scary movies for tonight. But I was refusing to leave because I had just seen a man. I knew I saw a man out the window. Then I saw the same man through the living room window, except JC saw it too. She ran to the front door and I thought she was making sure it was locked, but no, she was making sure I didn't look through the peephole. I ran up to her and yelled, move, we need to be able to identify this guy for the police. Confusion hit me. Why won't you move? She broke down and started crying. At this point, I could tell that she had basically given up. She was hiding something. She said, you know that old woman that me and Tyler visited? Now, let me just preface this. Tyler and JC were about as open-minded as people come. They tried basically every religion, and they were meeting up with this woman because she claimed to have some certain abilities. While she was telling me this, the man was still banging against the door. But as open-minded as they were, she told me that when she met up with the old woman, they couldn't help but laugh at her claiming to be one of the last real witches in the world. I tried to look around Jackie to see what was going on outside, and that's when I saw it. This was the stuff of nightmares. The man was on all fours and had pitch black eyes. And when he opened his mouth, he had cat-like teeth. She got up and ran to the kitchen and grabbed the tray of cinnamon cookies. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you not freaking out? Then she walked outside and started giving this half man, half creature these cinnamon cookies. And that's when I realized Tyler always did love cookies.